Thanks for joining us today on the Big Blue Podcast. I'm Leigh Goodson, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Nicole Burgin, Media Relations Manager. Congratulations, Nicole.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And I'm filling in for Dr. Greg Stone.
Dr. Greg Stone, who couldn't be with us today, so we're glad to have you here with us. And today we're at the Tulsa Technology Center Conference Center, and we're excited. They've decided to host us on our combined professional development and convocation day, thanks to some great suggestions from our faculty. So we're really excited to be here today, and we are joined by two guests, our own Dr. Cindy Hess, Chief Academic Officer Extraordinaire, and
she did change my title.
I did. I did change your title, Dr. Hess, but I just want to make sure that you're really happy with me so that you'll keep working really hard, And Dr. Peter Felten, Assistant Provost for Professional Development at Elon University. Welcome. We are so glad to have you here, and we understand that you are back home in a way by being here.
I got married in Tulsa, so it's
you
wonderful
got married
to be back
in Tulsa,
here.
so it's good to be back home. Yeah. Okay, so we're so excited to have you both here today, and excited to have Professional Development Day. I thought it was a great opening and with a lot of energy, and so I hear it's going great out there.
Yes, it is.
And we're in here with the radio show, but you both worked together at Southeast Campus several years ago, and what was it like to work at Southeast kind of back in the day, if you will, and what are some of the fond memories you have? So just kind of explain, how do you all know each other, and Cindy, how'd you decide to bring him here today? And so anyway, let's just kind of go through the history a little bit.
Well, Cindy hired me
Yay.
for my first job after I finished my PhD. My soon-to-be wife was working in Tulsa, and I was a newly minted PhD in history, so I could have worked at Starbucks or any number of other places. And Cindy came calling, and so I was a full-time faculty member at Southeast Campus, and then I became division chair of liberal arts at Southeast Campus.
I think you were an adjunct at Metro first.
I was an adjunct at Metro first,
and we lured you to Southeast Campus.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
So it was a fabulous thing. Peter and I really made, I think, great connections because of our huge interest in student learning and shifting things about how we worked with faculty. One of the fond memories that I have, Peter, is you and I kind of talked about the challenges of privileged students who thought that, because it was at Southeast and some of those stereotypes are true, that students come there and they used to say in some of their conversations, but I paid, so they would complain about a grade that a professor had given them, and their response would be, but I paid. And so Peter and I used to say this thing, you pay, we A. And it used to kind of crack us up
Yes, it was very charming.
because it was something that we just found stunning, that students thought that it was a quid pro quo sort of environment.
Yeah. And two other things I learned so much. One is Cindy is modest, because she hired me into the role of division chair, and then all I did was say, Cindy, what should I do? And then do what she said and take credit when things went well and go, Cindy told me when it didn't work.
Thanks.
So it was very helpful.
Sounds like not much has changed.
Not much has changed. No, but that's sincerely. I mean, Cindy showed me how to do this kind of work. So that was one thing. And the other thing that I remember learning so vividly at Southeast Campus was from my students when I was teaching history, because I'd have my students do family history things. And I had the same image that everybody had at that time of students at Southeast, that they were all fairly privileged and they all came right from Union High School over here, and it was, et cetera. And some of the stories that I heard fit that. But some of them were just stunning as someone who's not from Oklahoma and had moved around and things like this. So I remember one student who had never left Tulsa County, right?
Wow.
And I thought, and she had a great story to tell about her grandfather and all this, but it was really helpful for me to learn about how human our students are, how complex they are.
And you did leave
I did.
Tulsa, and you came back for our Professional Development Day.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the presentation and how the title is working with faculty. And
Yeah, so I have been fortunate enough for the last 3 or 4 years to work with a national foundation called the Gardner Institute that does a lot of work nationally and actually internationally on first-year courses and on first-year curriculum and things like this. John Gardner, who's the namesake of this institute, was the one who coined the idea of a first-year experience in college. And in that work, we've seen just how important, well, there's lots of factors that lead to successful first-year experiences, right? But one of them that doesn't get enough attention is what faculty do. Classrooms matter a lot for these students. So we can have great pathways and we can have great advising and we can have really efficient registration and all this, but we need good classes that engage students and that challenge them to do their best. And so the session today is about teaching really effectively to students who might be first in their family to go to university, first time in a university classroom, in a discipline that they're scared of.
And there was a second part of that question. What do all students need in order to be successful in their gateway courses?
What do they need? Most importantly, they need to believe that they belong there and that they can do it. That doesn't mean you just pat them on the back, they pay, we A. In fact, the research is really clear that what they need is a sense that you and the institution have high expectations and that you believe they can meet those expectations, even if their work isn't doing it right now. If you have low expectations, you tend to alienate them.
It sounds like it's right in line with the mindset work, and a good bit of the pathways work has been kind of founded and grounded in the notion of mindset and making sure that we simplify the paths for students so that they can focus on learning. Dr. Goodson has long been saying, we want our students to get the help outside the classroom that they need so that they can focus on learning, and so our teachers can focus on teaching and the learning that goes on.
And you sort of addressed this, but what do you want our faculty teaching those gateway courses to remember every time that they stand in front of the class? Things are going on in their life every time they walk into that room.
Dr. Goodson and I recently have started interviewing finalists for every full-time faculty position in the college. And one of the key questions that I think is really important for faculty to have a very clear answer for is, what is the one thing that they want a student to remember and to know after they have finished with a course of theirs? One thing, because it's likely that they will only retain one thing, and you've kind of got to know what the end is in order for you to be able to deliver and to design the course in a way that fosters that key understanding.
I'm Leigh Goodson, and I'm here with Nicole Burgin, and Dr. Cindy Hess and Dr. Peter Felten are our guests today on the Big Blue podcast. So you've written some books, Dr. Felten, and one of the books you've co-written, Transformative Conversations, is about the value of mentoring communities among colleagues in higher education. And so we're here today at Professional Development Day, which is really part of that process. Can you talk to us about how those kinds of mentoring communities and conversations can be transformative for an institution?
Sure. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
Thanks for mentioning the books. Well, first, I think it's helpful to reflect on what we mean by mentoring, because too often when people hear the concept of mentor, they think, wise elder, young person, and things like this. And that's useful, and that happens, and that's important in education. But for a lot of us, once we become a faculty member and administrator, there aren't that many wise elders or younger, and so we have to figure out, how do we mentor and be mentored by our peers? So a lot of that book is really about how do we do this together with each other. And then the heart of the book is really trying to shift what we talk about with our peers in some ways. We're all so busy, we have so many obligations and so many demands on us, we tend to talk about those things. We talk about the weather, we talk about parking, we complain about students, right? And what we're trying to do in that book, and what I think can really matter in professional development in general, is to make space to talk about our commitments, to make space to talk about successes and assets and things like this. Because we need to remind ourselves why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, the work of community colleges is fundamental to enhancing our communities, our students' lives, but our country, our world, right? And remembering that, so when you go in and some of the students worked all night and look pretty sleepy and aren't engaging the way you want, you don't get mad at them. You say, why am I doing this? And why are they doing that? And how do we have that kind of conversation?
It's really a matter of bringing them along so that they can be part of our workforce,
Yeah.
contribute to the community, and also be really engaged voters as well, part of the democratic process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So keeping those things instead of just what do I have to do today because it's Tuesday or there's a
Right.
report due to the mean vice president of academic affairs or something. But it's like I'm teaching these students because I care. And finding space to talk about that and remind yourself of that because teaching is hard. Teaching in a community college is really hard. You have such diverse preparation for your students and so many students, and they need so much personal attention and challenge and support that you need to be reminded while you're doing it.
Dr. Hess, you often have said none of us has arrived in terms of our professional development. Where do you see faculty development headed in the coming years, especially regarding the areas of teaching and learning or active learning?
I look forward to a day when our entire faculty knows as much about learning as they know about their content area. We're talking about developing conversancy with a particular subject matter in each one of the classes based on what their content expertise is, but a fundamental understanding of how students learn and redesigning the classroom to facilitate that in the ways that make sense and that research shows us, I think would be where I would see us going. But again, you don't arrive at that because you pay attention to the research. You, as professionals, faculty, ought to, number one, be reading it. It's our responsibility as a college to bring that reading, bring those folks here, which is why we've got Dr. Felten here today. But I really look forward to the time. We've got a lot of expertise in our own classrooms, but to put it in, especially with new faculty, as we bring our new faculty in, to be sure that they're grounded in the principles of learning, in addition to the content expertise.
I have to say that almost sounds overwhelming sometimes when you think about that. But it's possible.
It's possible because we don't all have to become educational psychologists, right? I mean, we have great colleagues and peers around the world who study cognitive science and things like this. So they can help us understand what are the key principles. What are the key things that, I'm a historian, I wasn't trained to teach, right? But I can still learn some things about how teaching and learning work and recognize that I'm trying to help my students learn to think like historians and write like historians and all this. And what's that mean? So it's not, I have to take on a whole new discipline. It's I have to inform what I'm doing in my discipline by some of what colleagues outside have done.
That's really exciting.
It's very exciting, and
It
I
is very
think,
exciting.
I think that is what causes our faculty to continue to be passionate about what they're doing. There is so much outside the classroom that they have no control over, but there is no question but what a faculty member has control over what learning experiences they're putting together to put in front of students. And our full-time faculty, it's our responsibility to be sure that they're equipped with the latest and greatest, and not the fads, because a lot of this stuff is old stuff. The 7 principles of
Good practice.
good practice back in the 80s, right? The Learning College was back in the 90s. A lot of this stuff has been going on around, and that's why I feel it's such a privilege to work in the role that I'm working in, to be able to help with the transformation of the college, to refocus all of its efforts on student learning.
And it's more exciting as a teacher. It's more rewarding as a teacher when more of your students can really achieve at high levels, not just get A's or not anything else, but you see them learning, you see the light bulbs coming on. That's what you do this for.
And especially when you're teaching the same content over and over and over. The thing that does change is the way that you might put that content together and create those learning experiences. That's how you keep it alive.
So we save the exciting big question to the end of the show. Dr. Felten and Dr. Hess, you'll get an opportunity also.
I answered this before.
Oh, you
It's
want to
okay.
skip it?
You know what? I think we should devote the remainder of the program to Dr. Felten. He's a media hog.
Well, you're probably right.
I'm glad this part is on the tape.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
If you had an opportunity to give advice to your 18-year-old self, tell us what that advice would be.
Yeah, so Leigh, I knew this question in advance, and I've been stressing out about it completely. 'Cause
Yeah, we don't want people to have this as a surprise.
no,
question,
it's okay.
right?
And so I've been thinking about this, and in the context of today, but I think just in general, in reality too, my first year in college, when I was 18, I got the advice I needed from a teacher. So I'm going to tell you a story. And I didn't
Love it.
know I needed this, but so I took a philosophy course my first semester. I'd never taken philosophy. It was fine. I wrote this paper. I thought it was really good. I turned it in December. I go home, and over the holiday break, I get this big envelope in the mail, and it's the paper back from my professor. And I'd already seen that I got an A, so I was like, okay, whatever. And this professor, Dr. Joan Klug, wrote on my paper, Peter, this was a great paper. It was the best paper in the class, but you could have written a better paper. Wow. I want to see you in the spring. You still have your A, but I want to talk about that. And that just made my brain explode. That it was like, it wasn't just about getting an A or just about doing better than my peers, but something about reaching towards potential and challenging yourself and stuff like this. And so I've carried that around with me forever.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
What
That's
a
a great
powerful
story.
story.
Yeah. Well, and to
Thank
think,
you for sharing that.
to me, to think too that we can do that as teachers. You know, we can. So I always think to myself, like, when am I doing that for my students?
It's kind of, as a teacher or a faculty member, you're putting yourself out there
Yeah.
by doing that, because you sometimes get criticized as a leader, a faculty, a mentor, a parent, for really expecting from everybody what you know they can do. And so what a powerful, bold move that faculty member made to help you be the best you can be. That's a powerful
So I
story.
was lucky to learn that when I was 18.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast. We want to thank our guest, Dr. Felten. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you here. And Dr. Hess, it's always good to have you on the show, for spending time with us today. And we want to thank you for listening. And I'm grateful to Nicole Burgin. Thank you for being the co-host today. We appreciate you stepping in. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week on the Week at TCC and on the Creativity Channel on YouTube. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.